In the vast tapestry of the galaxy, where ancient civilizations have ruled for millennia with technologies that bend reality itself, there exists a simple truth that even the most advanced species refuse to acknowledge. Sometimes the greatest threats come not from overwhelming power, but from the audacity to think differently. The Galactic Consortium has catalogued over 3 million species across 47,000 star systems. They have witnessed the rise and fall of empires that could manipulate time, harvest energy from black holes, and terraform entire solar systems with a thought. Yet in all their recorded history, spanning over 200,000 years, they have never encountered a species quite like humanity. Not because humans are the strongest, the fastest, or the most technologically advanced. In fact, by galactic standards, humans are remarkably unremarkable. They possess no natural telepathic abilities, cannot survive in the vacuum of space without artificial aid, and their lifespans are laughably short compared to the great civilizations of the stars. But humanity has something that the galaxy has forgotten in its pursuit of perfection: the dangerous gift of desperate innovation. When cornered, when facing impossible odds, when every logical solution has failed, humans do something that defies all conventional wisdom. They improvise. They adapt. They take disparate pieces of technology, jury-rig them together with determination and duct tape, and somehow make them work in ways that should be theoretically impossible. This is the story of how humanity's greatest weakness became their most terrifying strength, and how a species dismissed as primitive barbarians brought the mighty Galactic Consortium to its knees not through superior firepower, but through the simple audacity to refuse to play by the rules that had governed the galaxy for eons. The consequences of underestimating human ingenuity would reshape the very foundations of galactic civilization, proving once and for all that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you never saw coming. The Galactic Consortium's first survey vessel Eternal Wisdom hung motionless in the void, its crystalline hull refracting starlight into prismatic rainbows that danced across its surface. Admiral HFY of the Veltar Empire stood on the bridge, his forearms crossed in contemplation as he studied the primitive blue world spinning lazily before them. According to the preliminary scans, this unremarkable planet in the outer rim of a forgotten spiral arm harbored intelligent life. Analysis complete, Admiral, reported his chief science officer, Tkala, her membranous wings rustling with barely contained excitement. The dominant species shows clear signs of early technological development. They've achieved basic spaceflight, primitive fusion technology, and rudimentary artificial intelligence. Classification suggests they're approximately 2,000 years away from qualifying for consortium membership. HFY's mandibles clicked dismissively. This was routine work, cataloging another backward species for future consideration. In his 3 centuries of service, he had encountered dozens of such civilizations. They followed predictable patterns: gradual technological advancement, eventual discovery of faster-than-light travel, first contact protocols, and integration into the greater galactic community. It was a well-worn path that had been traveled by every species in the consortium. Standard first contact procedures, he commanded. Deploy the cultural observation probes. We'll monitor them for a few decades, ensure they don't destroy themselves, then make formal contact when they're ready. The observation began innocuously enough. The species called themselves humans, and they inhabited a world they named Earth. Initial assessments confirmed the preliminary data: they were unremarkable in every measurable way. Their technology was crude but functional, their society fragmented into competing nation-states, and their lifespan barely a century. They showed promise in mathematics and theoretical physics, but their practical applications lagged far behind their understanding. Tkala compiled the first quarterly report with scientific detachment. Subject species demonstrates typical developmental patterns. They've achieved nuclear fission, basic rocketry, and primitive computing systems. Their progress follows established models for Class C civilizations. Estimated time to consortium standards, 1,873 years. But, as the months passed, something began to trouble the observation team. The humans weren't following the established patterns. Where other species had taken centuries to refine their technologies, humans seemed to leap forward in fits and starts, making sudden breakthroughs that defied logical progression. Admiral, Tkala approached with evident confusion. We're seeing anomalous development rates in several technological sectors. The humans have somehow compressed normal centuries-long development cycles into mere decades. HFY studied the data streaming across the holographic displays. Indeed, human progress was accelerating at an unprecedented rate. They had gone from basic computing to global information networks in less than 50 years. Their space technology had evolved from simple chemical rockets to sophisticated ion drives and experimental fusion engines in a fraction of the time such developments typically required. Perhaps their shorter lifespans drive them to work faster, suggested Commander Rel UX from his position at the tactical console. Many species compensate for brief existence with accelerated development. The Admiral nodded, accepting the explanation. It was logical, if slightly unusual. But, as the observation continued, the anomalies multiplied. The humans weren't just developing quickly, they were developing differently. Their technology showed a disturbing tendency to violate established engineering principles. Calais' reports grew increasingly perplexed. Sir, they're using techniques that shouldn't work. Their fusion reactors operate at temperatures that should destroy the containment systems, yet somehow remain stable. Their computer processors are achieving quantum effects without proper quantum engineering. It's as if they're forcing their technology to work through sheer determination rather than proper scientific methodology. The breakthrough that truly caught the consortium's attention came during what humans called their Third World War. The conflict had erupted suddenly, as their wars tended to do, spreading across multiple continents with devastating efficiency. The observation team watched with clinical interest as the humans deployed increasingly sophisticated weapons against each other. But, then, something unprecedented happened. Faced with overwhelming enemy forces, a group of human engineers in a besieged city began cobbling together defensive systems from salvaged technology. They combined industrial fabrication equipment with military targeting systems, powered the whole assembly with jury-rigged fusion cells, and somehow created a functional point defense network that should have been impossible with their technological base. Run the analysis again, HFY demanded, staring at the impossible data. Calais' membranes fluttered nervously. Sir, I've run it 17 times. The humans have somehow created a Class B defensive system using Class C technology. The energy requirements alone should have caused a cascade failure, but their improvised cooling system is maintaining operational parameters. The Admiral felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's atmospheric controls. In all his years of observation, he had never seen a species successfully violate fundamental engineering principles. Technologies had certain requirements, certain limitations that were universal constants. You couldn't simply ignore the laws of physics because you needed something to work. Yet the humans had done exactly that. The siege lasted 6 months, and, throughout that time, the improvised defense network held. The human engineers continued to modify and adapt their creation, adding new components scavenged from destroyed buildings, incorporating enemy technology captured in raids, and somehow making it all function as a coherent whole. By the end of the siege, they had created a defensive system that incorporated elements from 17 different technological paradigms, none of which should have been compatible. Sir, Calais' voice carried a note of something approaching fear. I think we need to escalate this observation to the Consortium High Command. The Admiral studied the data one final time. The humans had not only survived the siege but had used it as a catalyst to advance their technology by centuries. They had taken desperate necessity and transformed it into impossible innovation. The implications were staggering. Every species in the consortium had achieved advancement through careful, methodical progress. Each technological step built logically upon the previous one, following established principles that had governed galactic civilization for millennia. The idea that a species could simply ignore these principles and force incompatible technologies to work together was not just unprecedented, it was theoretically impossible. Yet the evidence was undeniable. The humans had done it. As HFY composed his report to High Command, he couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy was about to change in ways that none of them were prepared for. The humans weren't just another developing species following the well-worn path to consortium membership. They were something entirely new, something that challenged the very foundations of how technological advancement was supposed to work. The observation data painted a clear picture. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in their individual capabilities, but in their absolutely reckless willingness to attempt the impossible when faced with no other choice. They didn't accept the limitations of their technology, they simply forced it to exceed those limitations through sheer bloody-minded determination. And if they could do that with primitive Class C technology, what would happen when they gained access to more advanced systems? What would they be capable of when they truly had their backs against the wall? The Admiral transmitted his report with growing unease, knowing that he was about to introduce the galaxy to a species that might well turn everything they thought they knew about technological development upside down. The humans were coming, whether the consortium was ready for them or not. In the depths of space, the eternal wisdom continued its silent vigil, watching as humanity took its first halting steps toward the stars, carrying with them a gift that the galaxy had forgotten, the dangerous ability to make the impossible work when everything depended on it. The Consortium High Command's emergency session convened in the crystalline halls of the neutral station Harmony's Edge, where representatives from 47 major civilizations gathered to discuss the human problem. The reports from Admiral Zephi had circulated through the highest levels of government, causing unprecedented alarm among species that had grown comfortable with the predictable nature of galactic development. High Chancellor Mordon of the ancient hegemony, whose species had ruled the galactic core for over 50,000 years, examined the holographic displays with growing concern. The humans had achieved faster-than-light travel 3 centuries ahead of schedule, using a drive system that combined elements from 6 different theoretical frameworks in ways that should have resulted in catastrophic failure. "Explain to me again how they've made this work," Mordon addressed the assembled Science Council, his crystalline form reflecting the ambient light in fractured patterns. Chief Science Administrator Vexthera, a representative of the collective minds, projected her consciousness forward. "Honored Chancellor, the humans appear to have discovered what they call sympathetic resonance engineering. Instead of building technology that operates within established parameters, they create systems that somehow convince incompatible components to work together through controlled interference patterns." "That's impossible," declared War Master Korth of the militant expansion, his armored bulk shifting restlessly. "Technology follows universal laws. You cannot simply will incompatible systems to function." "Yet the evidence is irrefutable," Vexthera continued. "Their FTL drives shouldn't work, but they do. Their fusion reactors operate at efficiency levels that violate thermodynamic principles, yet they remain stable. Their computer systems process information using quantum effects without proper quantum hardware, achieving processing speeds that our models suggest require civilization-level resources they simply don't possess." The debate continued for hours, but the underlying problem remained: humanity had somehow learned to break the rules that govern technological development throughout the galaxy. This wasn't mere rapid advancement, it was a fundamental challenge to the scientific principles that underpinned consortium civilization. The decision to make formal first contact came not from curiosity, but from necessity. The humans were advancing too quickly to ignore, and their unconventional approach to technology posed potential risks that the consortium couldn't afford to leave unaddressed. If they continued developing along their current trajectory, they could become a destabilizing force in the carefully balanced galactic order. The first contact mission launched 6 months later under the command of Ambassador Velterra, a seasoned diplomat who had successfully integrated 43 species into the consortium. Her ship, the Bridge of Understanding, approached Earth's solar system with full ceremonial protocols, broadcasting friendship messages in 17 languages and carrying gifts of advanced technology to welcome humanity into the galactic community. But the humans' response was unlike anything Velterra had encountered in her centuries of diplomatic service. Instead of the odd gratitude that typically greeted consortium first contact, the humans met the delegation with polite interest and immediate technical questions. Human scientists swarmed over the offered technology samples not with reverence, but with the intense curiosity of engineers encountering new tools. Within hours, they had begun disassembling consortium devices to understand their operating principles. "This is remarkable," said Dr. Sarah Chen, the human lead scientist assigned to the technology exchange. "Your power cells use crystalline matrices to store energy, but we've been experimenting with similar concepts using synthetic diamond lattices. What if we combined your storage methodology with our charging algorithms?" Valterra watched in growing horror as the human scientist began connecting consortium power cells to crude human electronics using improvised coupling devices that should have resulted in immediate system failure. Instead, the hybrid creation hummed to life, producing energy output readings that exceeded both technologies' individual capabilities. "Please stop," Valterra interjected, her diplomatic training warring with genuine alarm. "Those systems are not designed to interface with your technology. You could cause a catastrophic feedback loop." Dr. Chan looked up from her work with genuine confusion. "But it's working perfectly. Look at these efficiency readings. We're getting 30% better performance than either system could achieve independently." The ambassador found herself in the unprecedented position of trying to convince a species to stop improving the technology they'd been given. Every gift the consortium offered was immediately subjected to human modification, often resulting in devices that performed better than their original specifications while violating numerous engineering principles. The situation deteriorated further when human engineers began reverse engineering consortium technology and incorporating it into their existing systems. Their spaceships, already anomalous by galactic standards, began sprouting hybrid components that combined human innovation with consortium engineering in ways that made seasoned Zenit technicians weep. "They've installed our gravity manipulation systems in their cargo vessels," reported Chief Engineer Nick Serra to the increasingly desperate diplomatic mission. "But they're not using standard installation protocols. They've somehow jury-rigged the gravity generators to work with their primitive inertial compensators, creating a propulsion system that shouldn't exist but somehow achieves near light-speed acceleration using a fraction of the required energy." Ambassador Valterra composed increasingly frantic reports to High Command. The humans weren't just adopting consortium technology, they were cannibalizing it, combining it with their own systems, and creating hybrid abominations that worked better than pure consortium designs. Their entire approach to technological integration violated every established principle of proper engineering. The crisis deepened when human explorers began venturing beyond their solar system using their impossible hybrid technologies. Their ships appeared throughout consortium space, crewed by humans who seemed genuinely delighted to meet new species and eager to trade technological concepts with anyone willing to engage. But wherever humans went, they left technological chaos in their wake. A human trading mission to the Veltar homeworld resulted in local engineers attempting to replicate human sympathetic resonance techniques, leading to power grid failures across 3 continents. Human tourists visiting the crystalline conclave somehow managed to improve the efficiency of ancient energy matrices that had remained unchanged for millennia, causing theological crises among species that considered their technology sacred and perfect. Most disturbing of all was the human response to consortium warnings about technological limitations. When informed that certain combinations of technology were theoretically impossible, humans would nod politely and, then, proceed to make them work anyway. They seemed genuinely puzzled by the concept that technology had inherent limitations that couldn't be overcome through creative engineering. "It's like trying to explain the concept of impossible to a species that has never encountered the word," Valterra reported during her final transmission to High Command. "They acknowledge our concerns, but they don't seem to understand why theoretical impossibility should prevent them from making something work in practice." The breaking point came when a human research team, studying consortium dimensional manipulation technology, accidentally created a stable micro-wormhole using equipment that consisted of 50% scavenged human technology and 50% modified consortium systems. The wormhole remained stable for 6 hours, allowing instantaneous communication across interstellar distances using a device that had been assembled in a makeshift laboratory on a space station that was itself a patchwork of incompatible technologies from a dozen different species. The implications sent shockwaves throughout the consortium. If humans could create stable wormholes using hybrid technology, they had effectively bypassed centuries of careful research and development. They had achieved in months what the most advanced consortium civilizations had deemed impossible with current technology. High Chancellor Mordun convened another emergency session, but this time the tone was markedly different. The humans weren't just another developing species to be guided through the established integration process. They were a fundamental disruption to the technological order that had governed the galaxy for millennia. "They're not advancing along established pathways," reported Vexthera, her collective consciousness flickering with uncertainty. They're creating entirely new paradigms that shouldn't work but consistently produce superior results. Our models for technological development are being proven inadequate by their very existence. The question facing the consortium was no longer how to integrate humanity into the existing galactic order. It was whether the existing galactic order could survive humanity's integration at all. As debates raged in the halls of power, human ships continued to spread throughout consortium space, carrying with them the dangerous gift of impossible innovation. They traded freely with any species willing to engage, sharing their techniques and learning from others, creating an ever-expanding web of technological cross-pollination that threatened to reshape the very foundations of galactic civilization. The humans had become something the consortium had never encountered, a species whose greatest strength lay not in following established rules, but in proving that the rules themselves were merely suggestions waiting to be creatively circumvented. The crisis reached its inevitable climax when the ancient void wraiths emerged from the galactic darkness after 10,000 years of slumber. These entities of living shadow had once consumed entire star systems before retreating to the space between galaxies, and their return sent waves of terror through every consortium world. The wraiths possessed technology so advanced that it appeared as pure magic to lesser species, manipulating spacetime itself as a weapon and feeding on the energy of dying civilizations. High Chancellor Mordun stood before the assembled War Council in the deepest bunkers of the consortium's military command center, his crystalline form fractured by the stress of impending annihilation. The holographic displays showed the inexorable advance of the void wraiths through the outer rim territories, consuming everything in their path. Entire solar systems simply ceased to exist as the ancient entities harvested their energy for purposes beyond consortium comprehension. All conventional defenses have failed, reported War Master Korth, his usual bluster replaced by grim acceptance. Our most advanced weapons cannot penetrate their dimensional shields. Our fastest ships cannot escape their gravitational manipulation. The wraiths have returned with technology that renders our finest achievements obsolete. The gathered representatives of 47 civilizations faced the stark reality that their carefully ordered galaxy was about to end. The consortium's combined military might, built over millennia of gradual advancement and refined engineering, proved utterly inadequate against enemies who had transcended the laws of physics that governed conventional warfare. We estimate 3 months before they reach the core systems, continued Korth. Our evacuation protocols can save perhaps 10% of the population. The rest. He left the sentence unfinished. In the stunned silence that followed, a small voice spoke up from the human delegation section. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's representative to the Consortium Military Council, cleared her throat nervously before addressing the assembly of beings who had initially dismissed her species as primitive barbarians. What if we try something different, she suggested, her words carrying the weight of desperate hope. What if we stop trying to fight them with proper technology and start using the kind of improvised solutions that actually work? War Master Korth's mandibles clicked dismissively. Human, this is not the time for your species' reckless experimentation. We need proven solutions, not dangerous innovations that violate established principles. But High Chancellor Mordun raised a crystalline appendage for silence. In the face of certain annihilation, even the most desperate options deserved consideration. Explain your proposal, Dr. Vasquez. The human scientist activated her portable holographic projector, displaying crude but functional schematics that made the assembled engineers wince. We've been studying consortium technology for the past year, and we've noticed something interesting. Your systems are incredibly sophisticated and perfectly engineered, but they're also incredibly specialized. Each technology serves one specific function and serves it brilliantly. She manipulated the display to show human hybrid systems alongside pure consortium designs. But the wraiths are using multidimensional technology that operates on principles we don't fully understand. Fighting them with specialized tools is like trying to repair a quantum computer with a hammer. You need something that can adapt and respond to unknown variables. And you believe your improvised abominations can succeed where our perfected technology has failed? Chancellor Mordun's tone carried skepticism but also a desperate edge of hope. Not improvised, Dr. Vasquez corrected. Adaptive. Human technology isn't designed to work perfectly under ideal conditions. It's designed to work adequately under any conditions. When we combine that with consortium systems, we get something that can respond to situations that neither technology was originally designed for. The debate that followed was fierce and desperate. Traditional consortium engineers argued that proper technological solutions required time and careful development that they no longer possessed. But, as reports arrived of more systems falling to the void wraiths, pragmatism began to override orthodoxy. The turning point came when Dr. Vasquez demonstrated a prototype weapon system that combined human sympathetic resonance engineering with consortium energy manipulation technology. The resulting device looked like a technological nightmare, held together with improvised coupling systems and operating on principles that violated a dozen fundamental laws of physics. But, when tested against simulated dimensional barriers similar to those used by the Wraiths, it achieved what centuries of consortium weapons development had failed to accomplish: it punched through. How is this possible? Demanded Chief Science Administrator Vexthera, her collective consciousness reeling from the implications. Dr. Vasquez shrugged, a gesture that had become disturbingly familiar to consortium observers. We don't know exactly how it works. The human components create resonance cascades that shouldn't be possible, and your energy systems amplify those cascades beyond their theoretical limits. The whole thing runs on the edge of total failure, but it maintains stability through dynamic feedback loops that adjust to changing conditions. Within weeks, human engineers were working alongside the finest minds in the consortium to create hybrid defense systems that operated on the bleeding edge of technological possibility. The resulting weapons platforms were ugly, unstable, and theoretically impossible, but they worked. More importantly, they continued to work even when confronted with Wraith technology that adapted to counter conventional weapons. The first successful defense occurred at the Kepler Research Station, where a hastily constructed human consortium hybrid array managed to disable a Wraith scout vessel. The victory was small but significant. For the first time in recorded history, someone had successfully damaged void Wraith technology. The key is unpredictability, explained Commander Sarah Foster, the human officer now coordinating joint defense efforts. Consortium technology is so refined and predictable that the Wraiths can analyze and counter it almost immediately. But our hybrid systems are so chaotic and unstable that even we don't know exactly how they'll behave from moment to moment. The Wraiths can't adapt to something that's constantly adapting to itself. As the defensive network expanded, something remarkable began to happen. The hybrid human consortium technology began evolving in real time, with each encounter teaching the systems new ways to counter Wraith attacks. The weapons platforms developed emergent behaviors that their creators hadn't programmed, finding innovative solutions to problems that hadn't even been anticipated. It's like they're learning, reported Chief Engineer Nick Serra with wonder and terror. The hybrid systems are somehow developing tactical intelligence through the interaction of incompatible technologies. They're becoming more than the sum of their parts. The war's climax came at the Battle of the Core Nebula, where the combined forces of the consortium made their final stand against the Void Wraith invasion fleet. Traditional military doctrine was abandoned in favor of chaotic hybrid tactics that changed from moment to moment. Human ships, retrofitted with consortium technology and operated by multi-species crews, engaged in combat maneuvers that should have been impossible but somehow worked. Dr. Vasquez, now elevated to Supreme Commander of Hybrid Technologies, coordinated the defense from a command center that was itself a testament to human innovation. The facility combined technologies from every consortium species, jury-rigged together with human engineering techniques and held stable through constant real-time adjustments. It was a technological nightmare that worked better than any properly designed system ever could. The battle raged for 17 hours, with hybrid weapons platforms adapting to counter each new Wraith tactic. Human fighters, their ships powered by impossible fusion crystal hybrid reactors, danced through space in patterns that defied conventional physics. Consortium vessels, their systems modified with human sympathetic resonance technology, achieved performance levels that exceeded their original design specifications by orders of magnitude. But the decisive moment came when the Wraiths attempted their ultimate weapon, a dimensional collapse that would have consumed the entire star system. The hybrid defense network, operating on pure desperation and technological impossibility, managed to not just counter the attack but reverse it, sending the dimensional collapse back into the Wraith formation. The explosion of imploding wraith vessels lit up the nebula like a second sun, and, for the first time in 10,000 years, the ancient entities retreated. They had encountered something they couldn't understand or counter, technology that worked precisely because it shouldn't work. In the aftermath of victory, the galaxy found itself fundamentally changed. The hybrid human consortium technologies had proven not just effective but superior to traditional approaches. The careful, methodical advancement that had characterized galactic civilization for millennia had been replaced by chaotic innovation that achieved impossible results through sheer audacity. High Chancellor Mordun, his crystalline form somehow seeming more vibrant than before, addressed the celebration gathering on Harmony's edge. We have learned that perfection is not the highest achievement of technology. Adaptability is. The humans have taught us that the greatest strength lies not in creating systems that work flawlessly under ideal conditions, but in creating systems that work adequately under any conditions. The consortium restructured itself around human principles of adaptive innovation. Research and development shifted from centuries-long perfection processes to rapid prototyping and field testing. Species that had spent millennia refining single technologies began collaborating on hybrid systems that combined the best elements of multiple paradigms. Dr. Vasquez, now elevated to the newly created position of Director of Technological Innovation, established the first adaptive engineering academy, where beings from across the galaxy learned to think like humans, to see limitations not as absolute barriers but as challenges to be creatively circumvented. The humans had done more than save the galaxy from the void wraiths. They had saved it from the stagnation of perfection, introducing the dangerous gift of innovation that would carry galactic civilization to heights previously unimaginable. The careful order of the past had given way to the chaotic potential of the future, where anything was possible if you were brave enough to ignore the voices that said it couldn't be done. In the end, humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their willingness to attempt the impossible when everything depended on it, and their stubborn refusal to accept that something couldn't be done just because it had never been done before. They had proven that sometimes the best solution to an impossible problem was to ignore the fact that it was impossible and solve it anyway.